How does that ad? Does that ad reach you? Does that something you feel like, hey, could win over a vote?
I mean, I think that the argument that he makes there where he says would freeze the rent for 25% and raise it for 75%, I actually think that's a smart way to go. I think it actually does send the message that this rent freeze deal is great for some, but not for others. I support Mamdani's plan because he said repeatedly, I'm not just about freezing the rent. I have a yes and plan, which is part of my affordability plan is to freeze the rent for those New Yorkers who live in rent controlled apartments. But I'm also looking to build more apartments to incentivize the construction of middle class and working class housing. So he has a lot of irons in the fire when it comes to housing. But to just focus in a really dishonest way, or certainly disingenuous way, to suggest the only thing Mamdani's talking about is freezing the rent, I think is actually probably a pretty effective way to go if you're Cuomo. That sort of stuck with me a little bit. So yeah, I would say on balance, even though I enjoyed the Mamdani ad better, I would say from a purely political consultant standpoint, this was maybe a more effective ad.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Do you, and being someone who's not from New York City as myself, or I don't think I think I've only been in New York City once as like vacation. But do you think that the whole comparison to Bill de Blasio will actually be a negative hit on Zoran?
No. And I think that's a really good question and one that didn't occur to me as I was answering you before. De Blasio, I believe, was elected at least twice. I'm not sure if he was term limited out. He was a relatively popular mayor, I think no more nor less than Rudy or Bloomberg, and certainly far more popular than Eric Adams. I think New Yorkers today look back with some nostalgia to the days before Eric Adams was mayor. And to the extent that you're raising de Blasio as some sort of a boogeyman, you got to deal with the fact that you were the governor, right, when he was the mayor. And a lot of the problems that New York went through during the de Blasio terms were, I think most people feel, at least partly, if not largely, due to Andrew Cuomo.
Mm. Yeah, that actually is a really good point. That how much can you come out? That's like here in Maryland, if the Baltimore mayor was running to like win his seat again, and then you had the governor of Maryland talking bad about the Baltimore mayor. It's like, well, you're governor over the state at the same time, so or the city. So how do you really compare? How do you discredit them, but not also discrediting yourself too as a problem?
Yeah, no question. I think was it Sharon Dixon who was the mayor of Baltimore a few
Yes.
terms ago? So if Larry Hogan was running for mayor of Baltimore and he did an ad, times were really rough in Baltimore during the Sharon Dixon administration. And all you have to do is say, well, but you were governor during the time I was. So I don't think it goes over well, especially because Mamdani wasn't even the mayor then. I think is the less effective point. But to the look, I mean, I think at this point Cuomo's going to lose. I don't think there's much he can do to reverse that. The focus on the rent freeze, I think, makes some sense. I agree with you, though. It's not going to help to talk about de Blasio.